They should be. It's really, really a bad situation. All right, thanks very much for that, Jessica Schneider reporting. Let's get some more on all of these breaking developments. The chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Jason Chaffetz of Utah, is joining us. Congressman, thanks very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Wolf.
I want to get to this latest Secret Service problem, but you also heard President Trump in his news conference with Angela Merkel today once again imply that he had been surveilled or wiretapped by the Obama administration. He has no evidence to back up that claim. What message does this send to our allies for him to be making a claim like this with no evidence to back it up, especially in front of a world leader like Angela Merkel?
Well, if the president has evidence, I wish he would share it with us. Now, the House Intelligence Committee is leading out on this and looking into Russia. But I can tell you from the oversight and government reform perspective, we haven't seen evidence of this. I haven't seen evidence of mass voter fraud, and I have not seen evidence of wiretapping by President Obama. So if there's something there, we will reiterate, please share it with us, but we haven't seen it.
You believe the FBI Director James Comey when he testifies before the House Intelligence Committee in open session on Monday will put this issue to rest?
Well, I hope so. I mean, he's but one agency, but he's certainly in a position to know. And I do think it's important in this country to have an open and transparent hearing and be able to ask tough questions and get those answers. There are other agencies that could potentially be involved. The president seems very insistent that this is true. I just would like to see the evidence of it. But I think the hearing that the Intelligence Committee is having on Monday is obviously a very important one.
Yeah, we're going to have extensive live coverage of that on Monday. Your Republican colleague, Congressman Tom Cole, you know him. He said today that President Trump owes President Obama an apology for what he called his reckless claim on wiretapping. Do you agree?
Well, let's get to the conclusion of it. I mean, if the president is still, as recently as today, is saying that he believes it's true, that extends it. Again, we haven't come to the conclusion, and so I will let the facts take us where they are. But if I haven't seen any facts in this case, I'd like them to share them with us.
The White House today also insisted that it had offered no apology to the British government for accusing its intelligence agency of spying on the president at Trump Tower during the campaign under orders from President Obama. The president and the White House press secretary were citing a report by Judge Andrew Napolitano, a Fox legal analyst. Was that a mistake to utter those words from the podium of the White House and for the president once again to repeat that report by Judge Napolitano?
Well, I hope that people understand that just one account of one news story, particularly when some of these are just by anonymous sources, that's not nearly enough, doesn't rise to the level where you should be out and repeating those. They have to be very careful that way. I have not seen all the facts in that particular issue, so I can't issue sort of my final judgment on it. But again, they need to be ultra careful as he's the leader of the free world. And when you're at that podium, you've got to be very, very careful with that.
Yeah, you heard that statement from Shepard Smith on Fox News right after the president made that statement today at the news conference, saying Fox has no evidence at all to back up the assertions from Judge Napolitano or anything else suggesting that the president was wiretapped. Here's the bottom line question. Then I want to move on, Congressman. Why do you think the president is reaching for a single Fox News story to back up his claims instead of relying on the U.S. intelligence community or the law enforcement community? He's the president of the United States. He could just pick up the phone and say, get over here, tell me what's going on. Instead, he's relying on these news reports. Why do you think that is?
I'm not in a position to answer that. I'm really not. You have to ask the White House. You have to ask the president yourself. I don't know.
All right, let's talk about the Secret Service right now. This is a subject you've been working on for a long time, and you wrote a letter to the Secret Service regarding this latest incident a week ago on March 10th when a man jumped the White House fence. Among other things, you write this, and I'll put it up on the screen. The committee has received allegations of additional information that was not included in the affidavit. According to those allegations, the individual may have triggered alarms the U.S. Secret Service ignored may have moved around on the White House grounds undetected for a considerable amount of time and may have attempted entry into the building. If true, these allegations raise questions about whether the agency's security protocols are adequate. So here's the question. If that's true, it seems like many layers of security at one of the most sensitive spots on Earth failed. How did that happen?
It was complete and utter total failure. Look, they have concentric circles that radiate out from where the president is, no matter where he is. But the White House is probably the most targeted place on the face of the planet. We spend billions of dollars to secure it. The president was in the residence that night. How some person can go up to the fence, jump it, be on the ground for what Secretary Kelly, I got off the phone with him literally about an hour ago. Secretary Kelly told me that this person was there on the ground for 17 minutes, went undetected, was able to get up next to the White House, hide behind a pillar, look through a window, rattle the door handle. Is just beyond comprehension. Especially because it's not the first time this has happened. I've been on your show talking to you about other fence jumping incidents. The moment somebody jumps over the fence, they have to be taken down. And this one scares me probably more than any because of the length of time, the proximity to the president, getting right up close to the White House, and going so long without being detected. It makes no sense. And I don't know what in the world they're doing, but it is a total and complete embarrassment.
When you say rattle the door handle, I assume the door was locked, right?
Yeah. We don't know whether it was locked. The intruder did not get into the White House, but to be able to touch the White House, come on. That's why we spend billions of dollars with personnel and dogs and technologies and fences and undercover people and video surveillance, and yet the person is able to get up that close to the White House and spend 17 minutes before he's apprehended? That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that was not, by the way, the rattling of the door handle that potentially might have even been able to get inside the executive mansion, the residential part of that mansion. The president was inside that. None of that was in the official statement released by the Secret Service. And all of us do remember that 2014 incident when that intruder ran through the north lawn of the White House, got inside, and we assumed, all of us assumed, the Secret Service had learned lessons from that incident. Did they?
We have been given repeated assurance by the Secret Service that the technology was working, that they had solved these problems, that they have gone through this. Now, I will tell you that I was impressed when I talked to Secretary Kelly. He has been out there. He walked the route exactly as the intruder did it. He's a very hands-on secretary, and I think he is flabbergasted by this. I'm sharing with him the past experiences over the last 3 years that we've looked at the Secret Service on this issue. The men and women of the Secret Service, they're better than this. But how can they have such repeated, constant failures on this? I don't know how else to sound the alarm bell for the Secret Service and say, folks, I know it's boring and nothing happens, maybe for days, weeks, months, but then when it does happen, you have got to pounce on these people. It's just common sense.
And very quickly,
and it's very frustrating.
Congressman, I got to take a break, but very quickly, for 17 minutes, alarms were going off, but this guy was running around the south lawn of the White House, getting up to the south lawn entrance to the White House?
No. What I'm saying is there's supposed to be alarms. There are multiple redundant systems that are supposed to trigger a response. And so part of what we need to learn as part of oversight is what kind of response did they get? You know, the first excuse we heard in talking to a whistleblower is that they may have thought it was an animal, maybe a raccoon or a squirrel or something like that. Maybe they did send somebody out there, but again, they went undetected. And so I don't think it was dealt with properly from top to bottom. I really don't. I'm
going to need you to stay with us, Congressman. There's more breaking news coming into the Situation Room. We've just learned that the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, is about to release a statement based on what the Justice Department has just informed the committee about. Stand by for that and a lot more on the breaking news. We'll be right back.
TGI Fridays Endless Apps are back.